The wind howled across the open prairie like a wounded beast. Dust carried over the mesa, brushing against the weathered boards of Cole Turner's ranch house. The air smelled of winter, of smoke, of something coming. Cole had been fixing the broken fence line when he saw her, a lone figure stumbling from the riverbed, barefoot and wrapped in a torn wool blanket. Her skin was bronze under the harsh afternoon sun, her long black hair tangled with sand and twigs. She looked exhausted, but her eyes, those sharp, dark Apache eyes, still burned with pride. Cole dismounted his horse slowly, his voice low and calm. "You're hurt," he said. "You'll freeze if you stay out here." "I don't need your help, cowboy," she rasped, pulling the blanket tighter. "I just need to warm up tonight." Cole didn't know what to say to that. He'd spent years working alone, never inviting anyone near. But something in her tone, not weakness, not fear, just quiet desperation, struck him deeper than a bullet ever could. He took off his coat and laid it on her shoulders without asking. The wind cut between them, carrying silence instead of words. By the time the sun began to dip, Cole had built a small fire beside the corral, its crackle fighting the cold. The woman sat near it, watching him from across the flames. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Taya," she said finally. "My people are gone. Soldiers burned our camp near the canyon." Cole's jaw tightened. He'd seen too many senseless raids, too much cruelty dressed as law. He poked the fire with a stick, staring at the sparks rising into the bright sky. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "Just until you can travel again." Taya looked up at him with a flicker of something unreadable, suspicion maybe, or gratitude. "I'm not asking for charity," she said. "Only warmth," Cole nodded. "Then take it. There's plenty here." For the first time, the Apache girl's shoulders softened. The prairie stretched wide and silent around them, golden grass moving in waves beneath the sunset. In that vast emptiness, two strangers sat by a single flame, one offering kindness, the other testing whether she could still trust it. And though neither of them said a word, both knew the same truth. Sometimes warmth meant more than survival. It meant hope. The next morning broke wide and gold over the plains. The frost had melted into silver dew, glinting on every blade of grass, like tiny mirrors of the sun. Cole was already at the corral, brushing down his chestnut mare when he heard the cabin door creak. Taya stepped out, still wearing the wool blanket he'd given her, her hair now loose and clean. She blinked at the brightness, as if the daylight itself stung her eyes. For the first time, Cole saw her not as a lost wanderer, but as someone rebuilding her pride one breath at a time. "Coffee?" he asked, handing her a tin mug. She took it carefully, as though afraid to owe him anything. "You're different from the others," she said. "Most white men see an Apache and reach for their gun." Cole looked toward the horizon. "I was raised by a school teacher, not a gun barrel," he said. "But I've seen what they did to your people. I don't blame you for not trusting me." Taya studied him in silence. Her eyes softened just slightly, like ice melting under spring sun. "You work this land alone?" she asked. "Mostly," he said. "Bought it cheap after a family moved west. Too many nights, too much quiet." Taya looked around at the vast emptiness, the broken fence line, the distant canyon glowing in morning light. "It's not the quiet that hurts," she murmured. "It's having no one to share it with." For a long time, neither spoke. The only sound was the wind through the grass and the creak of the barn door swaying gently. Then, as if pulled by instinct, Cole took a step closer. "You don't have to leave yet," he said quietly. "There's work here and a roof over your head." Taya's expression hardened, though her voice trembled with something unspoken. "If I stay, people will talk. They'll call me names worse than beggar." "Let them," Cole said simply. "I've lived through worse." The air between them grew still. The prairie seemed to hold its breath. Finally, she lowered her eyes and whispered, "You gave me warmth once, cowboy. Maybe I could return the favor in time." Cole didn't answer. Not because he didn't want to, but because words would have broken the spell that morning sunlight had cast over them. Out there, under the open sky, two souls, scarred by loneliness, found the smallest piece of peace, the kind that comes not from touch, but from trust. The days passed quietly on the ranch. Taya mended torn saddles, helped feed the horses, and cooked over the open fire with skill that surprised Cole. She moved with purpose, silent, graceful, her every step certain, like someone who had learned to survive long before words could help her. Cole, meanwhile, began to feel something he hadn't known in years: peace. The house no longer echoed with emptiness. When Taya hummed Apache songs in the mornings, the ranch seemed to breathe again. Yet behind that calm, an unease grew. The land wasn't safe. Not for her, not for anyone who took in someone the law considered enemy blood. It happened just past noon. A group of 3 men rode in from the south, their horses kicking up dust. They were bounty hunters, drunk, arrogant, and wearing badges they'd likely stolen. Cole saw them before Taya did. He set down his hammer and walked toward them, jaw set, hand resting on the butt of his revolver. "Afternoon," one of the riders sneered. "We heard you've been sheltering a redskin woman. That true, rancher?" Cole didn't flinch. "You heard wrong. Funny," the man said, spitting tobacco to the dirt, "because there's a trail of small footprints out back, and none of them look like yours." He leaned forward in the saddle. "Now, step aside. We'll check for ourselves." Cole's voice was calm, steady as stone. "You take one step onto my land without permission, and you'll be lying in it before sundown." The standoff stretched under the noonday sun. The men's laughter was sharp, mean. One reached for his gun, and that's when it happened. A sharp whistle cut the air. From the barn roof, Taya appeared with Cole's rifle, the barrel aimed steady, her eyes cold as steel. "Move," she called out, "and you'll join the coyotes by dusk." The bounty hunters froze. None expected a woman, much less an Apache one, to have such aim. Cole couldn't help the small, proud smile tugging at his mouth. "You heard her," he said, voice low. "Leave." They did, spitting curses and threats as they rode off into the dust. When it was over, Taya climbed down, her hands trembling just slightly. "I couldn't let them hurt you," she said. Cole shook his head. "You just saved this ranch and me." The tension broke. The prairie wind carried the sound of distant thunder, but this time it wasn't fear that filled the air. It was something stronger, something born from loyalty and trust. As the sun set over the plains, Cole and Taya stood side by side, watching the last of the light touch the land they now both called home. And though neither spoke of it, both knew that warmth wasn't just a thing of the night anymore. It was something they had built together under the wide golden sky.